Welcome to our podcast, The Sun Never Sets, where we interview people from different countries to talk about universal issues and how they would deal with them. We want to encourage our listeners to reflect on their values. We want them to take the next steps with the resources they have so they can end up living by them. Today's episode and the upcoming ones will tackle the COVID-19 situation.
Welcome to our podcast. I'm Cornelia.
And I am Matthew.
And we are your host of The Sun Never Sets. And today we have Dominic from the Netherlands. Here, Dominic, you have 60 seconds to introduce yourself and to communicate the most important facts about you to our listeners. What should they know?
Well, that's a lot of pressure. This always makes me feel like a kid in high school, when the teacher goes around the class asking people to introduce yourself, and it's hard to, come up with things to say, but I'll try. So I am 24 years old. I am a political science major. I actually graduated last summer. Before that, I studied journalism for 2 years. I'm from the Netherlands, as you mentioned, from the city of Leiden, which is somewhere between Rotterdam and Amsterdam, which are our two biggest cities. So, by my major, you can probably tell I'm big into politics, especially American politics. I love American politics. I like exercising. I like meeting people. I like good conversations. So, this should be fun. And I think for, full transparency, I should disclose that I'm a friend of Cornelia's. We've known each other for about 2 years, a little less. And I'm hoping that was within 60 seconds.
I would even say a little bit less. But yeah.
Well done. Well done indeed. Well, welcome to our podcast. Glad to have you on. For our listeners, I'll be going over a quick overview of the current situation within the Netherlands about COVID and what are some of the numbers and some of the statistics that are going on in the country. Dominic, if you want to add anything in, just go ahead, because I just basically just Google searched things and looked on a few government sites and just looked up what was going on. So if there's anything else you can talk about, especially more of like the political climate and the more of like how your government and your country is running through COVID, because I only got a little bit of that. That'll be pretty helpful. But
definitely,
as of today, the Netherlands has 17.28 million people as of 2019. 1.3 million cases of COVID are identified in the country, with around 17,000 deaths as of the 22nd of April 2021. I also noticed that on a map that the southern Netherlands actually has more cases than in the north. Currently, there are 3 variants within the nation, with 2 of them actually being from Brazil. The economy, according to my research, is doing all right. It did drop a little in the beginning, but it's starting to level out, with the unemployment rate being at 6.4%. Reopening processes will be step by step as fewer people are administered to the hospitals. They're starting to this new set of reopening regulations on the 26th of April. They have many rules and regulations to stop the spread. Like people over 13 are required to wear a mask in public and have special hygiene rules. All kids under 4 in schools are reopened, and secondary schools are open, with higher education still having online teaching. Is there anything else you can probably add about the situation?
You mentioned that some regulations will be scrapped from the 26th. That's actually the 28th. But not to sound like a dick, because everything else you said was perfectly true. So the specific, specific regulations that will be scrapped or eased are mainly the curfew that will be done with. It will be gone. Right now, we have a curfew that starts at 10 p.m. And we won't have a curfew anymore starting on the 28th. And also we'll be able to eat outdoors. And well, I shouldn't say eat. It's mostly lunch and drinks, because they'll be open. Outdoor patios will be open from 12 till 6. We can, or at least students are able to go back to university for 1 day a week. And the stores will reopen, which means that you can go in without making an appointment. Because right now, if you want to go to a store that is not selling food or a supermarket, but just like a regular store, retail store, something like that, you have to make an appointment, but you won't have to anymore. So those are the main things that will improve. But there's a lot of backlash and skepticism about that, because we're actually at probably the peak of our 3rd wave. A lot of people are in the hospitals. A lot of new infections are being reported every day. So a lot of people are saying it doesn't really make sense to go that route, but that's the route we're taking. And we'll see what happens.
So what I've read in an article about the Netherlands is that, so it's a German article, it said that you Netherlands, you have more problems with those restrictions. Like people just don't want to have those restrictions, which is different to us Germans, or at least according to this article, that we Germans are more fine with those restrictions, that we accept them, and that's why we go back into a more stricter lockdown, kind of thing. We have a curfew now, which starts at 22 p.m. midnight until 5 a.m. So no cars are allowed to drive. So
yeah, there's definitely a lot of people that have issues with it. Back when curfew was implemented in January, I believe it was, there were massive riots, a lot of clashes between rioters and police, and that has kind of like died down. The protests have died down, but there's definitely a lot of people that are having a hard time following the regulations. And what people are struggling with most is not being able to have more than 2 people from different households over in their home. That, according to polling, is what people find the hardest rule to actually follow. It's funny because when curfew was implemented, that was such a big thing. We haven't had a curfew since World War II. And that was the reason, actually, or one of the reasons that it was not implemented earlier, like back in the first wave or even second, because the government was worried that it would remind people of World War II and it would invoke those sentiments. And it was a very, touchy subject. However, ever since it's been implemented, yeah, of course, like it's annoying. It's annoying for me personally. Like I can't go out for a run after 10. If I want to visit a friend, I have to stay over. So it's a nuisance, I'll admit. But according to polling, at least, people have fewer problems with it than they had imagined beforehand. So when it was implemented, the government said, okay, whenever there is a possibility to ease restrictions, the curfew will be the first to go. It hasn't been. It will be gone now. But that part of the regulations was actually not the most controversial, apart from, the protest that I mentioned in the beginning.
Okay. Should we then move on to your more personal story?
Sure.
Yeah, he was kind of talking about it for a little bit too. He was like getting into it. He was ready. He was already ready.
Yeah. I was ready for this.
So
I want to talk about myself.
Go ahead and then just continue on, I guess. Just talk about like what your life was before COVID. So how was your life before COVID-19? Like what were you doing with your life and like how would you spend your time?
I was still studying. As I mentioned, I graduated last summer. So during the last months of my major, that's when COVID hit, and that's when my classes went remote. I remember in the early days, like late February, early March, my teachers would joke about how maybe, next week we won't be able to go to uni anymore. And it seemed like such a distant thing, it was ridiculous, but it turned out to be pretty prescient. And it all, went to, I don't know if I can curse on this podcast, but from like one day to the next, things went down the drain. Like on a Thursday, we got this message from our university that basically said, all right, due to unforeseen events, the university will be closed tomorrow for the time being, like for tomorrow, unless, you have an urgent reason to go there, don't. And then the next day on Friday, we basically got the message, all right, it's gone, it's done, it's closed. We're out of here. And we're going to go remote. So that is the main thing that changed for me in those early days. So as I mentioned, I was studying political science. I was almost finished. I just had to finish a couple of courses that I did not succeed in the first place. So I had to redo them basically at the end of my third year. And from the start, in like the first weeks, actually, and this is going to make me sound like a terrible person, I kind of liked it. I kind of liked the world being on lockdown. And I know it's awful to say.
No. What? Wait. Okay, I'm kind of confused. Dominic, you never told me this. Like, oh my God, no, seriously, I thought I'm the only one who's actually enjoying it. Like in the beginning. Oh my God, I kind of feel betrayed by you because
I'm sorry. As I'm saying, I guess it sounds terrible, so I didn't like. Yeah.
But well, wait, I kind of don't understand this because I told you several times that I actually like it. Actually like that we have a lockdown. Not a lockdown, but that Corona setting that we have online classes and all those kind of things. You never mentioned that. Yeah, me too. No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm super sure. If I would have known about this, I wouldn't have felt like maybe it's stupid that I kind of feel like this. Maybe something's wrong with me. Maybe I'm not a good person, but oh my God.
Yeah, I guess now is the time to confess. So, of course I had those same feelings. Like, I know people are dying and, people are in the hospital and people's lives are being ruined and all that stuff was very, very real. And it still is, of course. But for me on a personal level, like my life was pretty busy. I'm a pretty social person. So I'm always seeing a lot of people and I was still, in school, having a lot of classes, working out, going to the gym, basically every day. And at a certain point, I wasn't able anymore. I wasn't able to go to the gym because it was closed. I wasn't able to go to uni because it was closed. I wasn't able to see my friends for the most part. And suddenly there was this weight lifted off my shoulders and I could just focus on me. And I could, I rediscovered walking outside, which sounds really like basic. But it was such a nice change of pace. The train that is constantly moving came to a halt and I enjoy that. But I should say that was the early days and that wore off after a couple of weeks. But those first couple of weeks weren't all that bad. And I must admit that this comes from a very privileged position because I did not have to worry about losing my job in those early months. I was pretty secure in my life and my way of life. And if I, like, for example, was working at a restaurant, serving people as a waiter or something like that, then I would have very different feelings. So, and a lot of people my age were involved in those type of jobs. So it comes from a very privileged position. But for me, it wasn't all that bad.
That's true.
So for me, I would say that I agree with you, especially on the sort of the part of like really enjoying COVID at first. More so of like me getting more time to exercise. That was really the only time that I had like an interest in like going out because like I hate online classes with a passion, and so that was like my biggest fear. They turned out all right, but I loved when I was walking down a road and someone would go to the other side of the road just so that and because it was like, wow, this is great. I don't even have to do anything.
That is some social anxiety right there.
Wait.
Yes.
Matthew, I'm not quite sure if your first few sentences is going to be in the audio because I muted myself. So yeah, and I was trying to say something, but then someone was yelling behind me. So yeah. Okay, so what I was trying to say, it's true about being privileged because me, myself, I was working as a waitress before, but I also, thanks to my mom who was working in the supermarket, I got easily a new job, basically. And also I didn't had to worry about money in the first place, like having enough money to get food or place to sleep because I'm still living with my parents. So yeah, for me, the reason why I enjoy the COVID situation, or like at least not the COVID situation in general, but the fact that I had online classes was because I didn't have had to drive 1.5 hours to the university and back. Yeah. So Matthew, now you could repeat what you were saying.
Oh, yeah. So I was just talking about how I agree with him with like the start of COVID and how it was like a little interesting. I didn't like say it was nice for me. I was kind of like indifferent. I'm like, whatever. This is whatever. Here's happening. But I kind of liked how I was walking down the street or like running down the street and people would like go to the other side of the street to avoid me because of COVID because they didn't want to get sick either. And I'm like, this is great. I can just walk and not even have any interaction with people. It's amazing.
It does have its upsides. However, I'm just hoping that it's not going to stay that way,
Mm-hmm.
Because sure, it's nice, your personal space. Everyone appreciates their personal space, of course. But it is also a human thing to like seek connection. And I don't want people to walk down the street like as if they're always going to be afraid of me, Yeah.
I mean, I don't either. But yeah, some of my friends are pretty introverted and they definitely want to have that more so than me.
Yeah, maybe we could like in certain Asian countries, they have been wearing masks for, years. It's not a new thing. And they wear it to let other people know like, hey, I'm feeling sick. I'm having symptoms of whatever it may be. so you should stay away from me. Like as a warning, like as a courtesy, you know? And I think that would be a good thing.
Yeah, because for the longest time, I always saw that at my college where people of Asian descent usually had those masks. And I was always like, why do they do that? Like, I was like kind of questioning it. And like, it's like, as an American, we just don't really think about that. We don't really have that kind of mentality. If you're really sick, you just stay home. You don't do anything outside and you don't push yourself really. And so, but I like, it's not like I didn't have any respect. I definitely have a respect for everybody, but I kind of was confused. But I definitely have now more respect for it, understanding like their culture and how it works. And with now COVID, I was like, wow, this makes a lot more sense why people would wear masks. So
yeah, definitely. I think people have been made more aware of how quickly infections can spread and how quickly bacteria will spread and all that stuff. Things that you don't really think about in, you know, non-COVID times. But like when I'm watching a movie right now that was shot pre-COVID and people are close together, I'm like, get out of there, you know, go away, you know, don't stand so close to each other. And I think that will stay with me for a long time because it's been so ingrained in me now. And on the other hand, you know, people adapt, and we've also adapted to this COVID world quite quickly, I think. So maybe it will, you know, turn the other way and we'll be used to living the way we did pre-COVID, which I'm kind of hoping for. But right now it seems like a distant time where we can, you know, hug each other without feeling weird.
It is. I don't know, like for Matthew, since in America the vaccine is going pretty good and you also said that restrictions are losing. It's something I, as a German person who can say it, like I don't have this feeling. I don't know when everything is going to end. Yes, when everything is going to be back to normal, even though it was never normal. But yeah. I don't know.
So you were kind of talking and going into like how you are reacting now. You talk about a new movie you were watching. So now that you've been through COVID this entire time, how is your life now? What are kind of some changes that happened through COVID? What is like something current that you do, like with your daily life, your habits? What are you doing?
So the reason that I was able to write it out in the early beginnings of COVID without having to worry much is because I've always been working from home. My job is working from home. I'm a journalist at like a major soccer platform in this country, which is online. So I work at home. I do everything, you know, I need to do at home. So in that regard, nothing much has changed. I think if COVID hadn't happened, I would have probably started doing a master's in, you know, the summer, like August. I was thinking of doing a master in American studies, which would partly take place in the United States. I was looking very much forward to that. I would be able to spend a semester, I think, or maybe even like 6 months in New Jersey. But, you know, it was pretty clear that was not going to happen. So, and that was the main part for me to actually want to do that master's. So I decided against it and I started working full time instead of part time, you know, after finishing my political science major. So now I'm just working full time from home and nothing much has changed in that regard. I think I would probably still be in school if COVID hadn't happened. And I think, you know, it's been good in some ways. Like it has made me realize, you know, that you have to make an effort for friendships to last, to keep seeing people, because it's way harder, you know, when the pubs aren't open and you can't meet outdoors at like a patio. You got to actually make an effort, you know, one-on-one to go see someone. And in that regard, maybe it's made me a bit more social, you know, even though that sounds contradictory because COVID made us all a little more asocial, I think. So I would say that those are the main things that changed, or, you know.
Did you develop like any new habits or anything? Something like you would changed in your daily life as pre-COVID or during COVID?
Yeah. So I discovered walking. It's amazing. Turns out you can just like leave your house and go for a walk. It's the best thing.
Did you finish the book?
Which book? The one that I'm currently reading?
I don't know. Like a few weeks ago, you told me that you started to read again.
Oh yeah, that's true. I haven't finished the book. It's called Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. It's a really good book. There's a movie of it. I haven't finished it. I'm like in the book, I'm like 3/4 through, I would say. I usually read a couple of pages before bed. Honestly, I do not have that much free time, or at least I do not make that much time for it. Like people say that they're having a lot of free time due to COVID, but you know, I still work full time. You know, that's like 40 hours a week. So it's not like I'm rolling in free time. And I've always liked reading. You know, I should mention that I did a minor in American studies, and I loved reading all of the American classics and discussing them in depth. And yeah, that's something that is not really a COVID discovery, but more of a like being an adult discovery, you know?
I get that.
Then describe a typical day in your current life.
A difficult day?
No.
Sorry.
Typical day. Okay, again. Wait, let me.
If you want to describe a difficult day too, you know, we have that.
Yes, we can do both. Okay, wait. Okay, so again, describe a typical day in your current life.
I usually am able to sleep in, which is great. One of the biggest advantages of working from home is that you can basically roll out of bed, get in front of your computer, and start work. 2 minutes after you woke up. I love that. Usually I work nights, like generally. So during the day, I will watch up, on my American news, read up on my American news, see what they've been up to. I will usually go for a run outside or take a walk. I will, like, twice or 3 times a week, I'm meeting up with friends either, to have a walk or to have a drink, or I will, call people, record voice messages to people that I'm talking to, and I will go on Tinder, look for dates. Maybe I like talking to people.
My man.
Yeah. It's good, and even it's harder to meet people in these times, to meet new people. Like, I can see my friends and stuff, but I like meeting new people. That's one of the things that I've always liked in life, and it's just way harder. So yeah, that is part of my daily routine. And then at night I'm usually working, sitting in front of my computer watching the news. Sometimes I will do interviews like you guys are doing, calling people from the football world and recording an interview about some subject that's in the news, or I'll watch games and report on them. So I would say that is a typical day for me.
I like how diverse you are. You're definitely doing a lot of stuff.
That's not bad.
It seems like a short amount of time. My man.
Thank you. I'll try.
You are welcome. The next question I will say is, have you learned anything during COVID? Any values? Anything that your mindset, how has it changed over the course of the COVID pandemic?
Can I start with a sad subject?
You are
Yes.
more than welcome.
Good. Because as you know, that's what I want to do in this podcast. So
Make everybody sad.
No, this is gonna make me sound like a child, but I think growing up, people tend to have this sense that their parents, their grandparents, people that have always been there are invincible, and they're always going to be there, and they can't get hurt, but they can. I've lost my grandfather to the pandemic, to COVID, and he was just someone that has always been around. He was always there at family gatherings, parties, and like, they're not going to be around forever. Take care of your parents. Go hug them when you can. If you get vaccinated, then they get vaccinated. Go tell them that you love them, and try to embrace that fully. So that is definitely something I've been made more aware of, because like, I haven't really dealt with loss in my life before that. And that is a very, very privileged thing. And I'm very lucky in that regard. Like, my great grandmother died when I was about 9 or 10 years old. But other than that, I haven't really had major losses in my life. I haven't had family members deal with illness, and that kind of things. So that is a big thing. And then, on the other end, I would say that you should appreciate small things more. I was talking to a friend about this yesterday. We were going out for a run, and she had visited a museum in Amsterdam that was open for people that had been tested. And it was well regulated. Like, you got to provide a negative test, for COVID. And then you still got to wear a mask, and you still at least got to try and keep your distance, 5 feet. And however, in that museum, there was like a small cafe where you can sit down and actually have a drink and have apple pie and be served. And she was saying, like, when she was sitting there, she was thinking, like, this is the life. This is it. This is what we've been missing. And it's those small things that you start to appreciate more when you know that they're not, you shouldn't take them for granted. They're not always going to be there necessarily. So I think those things, in terms of like values, in terms of like lessons, I would say, I find a new appreciation for documenting things. I'm not good at writing. I don't really like writing. However, I just don't. Sorry.
Journalist?
I'm a journalist. Okay. No,
Yes.
I should clarify. I'm sorry. No, it was phrased poorly. I don't like writing, by
Journaling.
hands, keeping a journal, something like that. Going through my day and like writing. Like, I have a friend that after every day she writes down like a few things that made her happy that day. And I think that's the cutest thing ever. I don't do it. I can't do it. I won't do it. However, I do have a couple of friends that are outside the country that I speak English with, and I record voice messages to them like about my life. How was my day? How's COVID? And I think I try to keep those messages, because I think it's fun to kind of be able to backtrace that process that we've been through, like in early pandemic times, how I liked it, and I was talking about, it's all fun and games, and the small, like the gradual transition to like this eternal numbness, and now there's a little bit of hope. I have found a new appreciation for documenting things. And then lastly, I would say is that this pandemic has reinforced for me that you shouldn't wait for anything. And I was going into that a bit in the beginning, like tell your friends and your family that you love them and all that stuff. In other terms, like if you want to ask that person to marry you, then do it. Go for it. Don't wait, because life is going to throw a million curveballs in your way, and do not follow some arbitrary rules or some arbitrary deadlines that you've made up for yourself, and just go for it. Take your chances and don't take anything for granted, I would say.
So true. For myself, I kind of tend to make myself busy, or at least like I have plans, I have goals, I do want to reach them. But there are always moments when I'm in the kitchen, my brother's coming in, and he's more, he jokes around a lot. And also he has a complete different mindset from than me. He's pretty like, I wouldn't say indifferent, but he's more like, he knows who he is, he knows what he likes. And if he wants to do something, like he started to become a vegan a few months ago. And with him, it's like he will just do it then. There's no like trying or something like this. If he wants to do something, then he's going to do it. And so it is something I admire from him. For him. Anyway, and so when I'm in the kitchen and then he's coming, joking around, talking with me, those are also like moments when I kind of realize, yes, I can work towards my goals and do the work, but I should still get human connections, be social, and just enjoy it too, instead of kind of pushing this away as I don't need this and not as much, and just let life be.
Yeah, I try to, like, if I make a goal for myself, I do not try and wait for like people make New Year's resolutions, like starting on January 1st, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to better my diet. I'm going to do this and that. Why wait for like the earth to turn around the sun? Like it doesn't make any sense. Just start doing it. And the start is always the hardest part whenever you want to try something new. Like I was doing this YouTube workout with a friend of mine that was like 30 minutes, and it was like squatting and jumping and all that stuff. And it was awful. Like I couldn't. It was the first time that I was doing a workout like that. Like I do cardio, but this, I didn't finish it, and my muscles, like my joints hurt for like 3 or 4 days, but I'm planning to do it again, and it's going to suck again. And then, the third or fourth time, it's not going to suck so much anymore. And you should go through that difficult start, but not delay it, because if you delay it, it starts to become this big thing in your mind, instead of just doing it. Like if I go to the gym, which, currently I can't, but when I do it, I don't sit around and think like, I don't want to go. Yeah, I'll go like tonight and just going to finish it. No, I just get on my bike and I go, and when I'm there, I'm not regretting it. It's like taking a shower, it sounds awful, but when you're inside the shower, it's, it's great. So just start doing it, I would say, if you want to change your life.
Yes. But then again, this podcast, originally, I was planning to do this by myself, and Matthew would have been my first guest. But I'm so glad that we are doing this together now, because you just get a different perspective on it. And so I'm glad that I waited, that I was kind of procrastinating on it, because the product can always be better than after you kind of thought about it. And sometimes you are just too busy to really put focus on something which is really important for me. For me, making this podcast, talking, having like a good concept and get the message out to the people is important for me. That's why I do want to make this good. But yes, of course, you can't delay everything. Like sitting on the couch watching Netflix probably is not the best choice.
So what made you guys decide to do it together?
It's just, I would say for myself, less work. So first, less work. Second, you have an accountability partner. So it's not just me struggling. You also have another person who's struggling with you. And basically, since we were video chatting every week anyway, so and also because Matthew really showed interest in this podcast, like he was preparing his own making some notes for himself what he's going to say on the first episode then. And so I kind of thought, maybe it would be cool if Matthew could be also a host of this podcast and do it with me.
Is the time difference difficult?
Nah, or?
I mean,
No, not at all. Especially more for me than her, because I usually wake up pretty early in the morning and it's, night currently over where you guys are. And so I'm wide awake. I have the whole day. So it's not a big issue for me in terms of time.
I think that's like a 9-hour difference, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it's also 9 with the Netherlands as well. Yes.
True.
Yep. At least on the West Coast. So to answer your question, though, why I did this is because I wanted to actually get involved and talk to new people, especially from people from different countries. I honestly just am tired of talking to an American every single day. And so it's kind of always nice to talk to Cornelia because the different perspective, she's in a whole different nation. And so this is why I love doing this. I mean, I don't get to talk to people in general really at the moment anyways, but that was probably my main reason of going on, because when she pitched to me, hey, why don't we do this together? I'm like, yes, sure. Like, I need some kind of extra interaction in my life.
No, that is so true. Like in the early days of COVID, I would do a lot of video calls with people, and that, it was something to look forward to. Just being able to talk and not having to keep all your thoughts bottled up because there's no one to express them with. Like I've also found like more of a bonding with my roommates. Just because you spend more time being together and having no one else to talk to, especially when there's curfew, you're just both, or, all of you are at home and you need someone to like blow off steam or have like social interactions with.
I have a question to you both. In our family, at least, we kind of tend to, if someone gets angry, then yes, they get loud. My older sister, she doesn't like it. She doesn't like it when we start talking loud, not really yelling until someone's really angry, but like, it's not like calm voice as you would expect or something like this. So, and yeah, but how is it with you guys in your family? How do you talk about stuff which are more difficult to discuss?
Oh God. So I'm a political science major, and whenever I mention that, I know what's coming. People want to blow off steam about the recent political scandals or whatever, and they think I'm the guy to voice those concerns to, because I know a lot about that stuff. Obviously, so I can't really escape it. Is what I'm saying. However, I know that I should avoid some topics with some people if I want to have a fun day without everyone leaving more stressed than they came in. So I think I try to be mindful of what subjects I can and should approach and what subjects I shouldn't. And sometimes I'll just go along. Like my mom, I love her, but she is anti-vax. And like, I know I'm not going to change her mind on that. It's not happening. So for us, like, it's probably best not to discuss it too much, because we're diametrically opposed on that. So I just kind of accept it. And in terms of, being loud, that's not really that much of an issue. Like, I don't have like loud mouths in my family or any, like the drunk uncles and stuff. Everyone's perfectly fine. But yeah, sometimes I try and choose my, wisely what topics I will and will not address.
Wait a second.
I was seeing that. I was like, yeah, she needs to go off for a minute.
So how's it for you, Matthew?
When she gets back, I'll explain it a little bit more, I guess. But
yeah, you guys can just cut this out.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, it's going fine. I mean, my family kind of argues here or there, but
have you been vaccinated yet?
I yes, I have, yeah.
Good.
I already got my vaccination. That's all taken care of and lovely and done.
Johnson & Johnson?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Yeah, because it sounds like you've only had one shot, but it's good. It's enough.
Yeah, I liked having the one shot. It was just easier and a lot more simple. Just shot, done, gone.
Definitely, yeah. I want that one too.
I hate how there's all this like public outcry against it. Yes, they should, have more disclosure up front. They didn't really have a lot of disclosures up front, and so they definitely should have. But when 7 people got blood clot issues, like, that's such a small percentage of the amount of people that have gotten Johnson & Johnson. So
yeah, it was like 7 out of 7 million, right? It's literally a 1 in a million chance. Yeah. Fun fact, by the way, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is actually created in the city where I live, in Leiden.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is true. You can look it up. So Johnson & Johnson is the owner of a Dutch company called Janssen, and that is the company that actually creates the vaccine. So if you take the vaccine, there's the sticker on it and it says Janssen, which is a Dutch pharmaceutical company, and it's created here. So, it's a small point of pride for my city.
Cool. I got something frozen that came all the way over from the Netherlands. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so sorry for the blood clots, but
Yeah. It's quite all right. Didn't happen to me. I only got a little sore arm.
Good.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back.
So to answer your question, Cornelia, so when it comes to people that are angry around my house, not really angry, like yelling a lot, it doesn't usually happen so much. And when it does, it's usually just like a quick, simple outburst. And then that's kind of like it. Not to say our family doesn't argue at all. We definitely do a lot, but I wouldn't say there's a lot of hostility per se.
Good to hear your perspective on it, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people have problems with that. But yeah, so
do you guys debate people within your families that you vehemently disagree with on stuff? Or are you kind of like me and trying to avoid the subject? Like when I'm seeing my brother, like it takes like 5 or 10 minutes and it'll be him ranting against COVID regulations, and I know it's coming and there's nothing I can do to stop it. So I just let it happen and I don't really engage, and I'll be like, yeah, sure. And it is what it is. But do you guys like push back?
So personally, we don't really debate about COVID. We kind of have a similar perspective on it, except my older sister, she has a boyfriend. So yes, she's going out, meet him, or he's coming here. And so me and my other siblings, since we just stay at home the whole time, at least like we jokingly we don't like it, but we also just accept it. So we mention it, making comments about it, but we just accept it in the end. So it's not a big deal. I would say like we don't really debate about politics. Things we are debating more about is kind of my older sister mindset.
So what's wrong with that?
It's like she has a complete different perspective on life. She's more a materialistic person. She just got those funky dolls. Those are like Harry Potter kind of stuffed dolls she's collecting now.
So you think she's like wasting her money and time?
So yeah, so obviously like all of our family members, we let her do what she wants, but we also make comments about it, and she doesn't like it when we make comments. But then I have the opinion, which can obviously be wrong too, but I have the opinion, if you don't stand behind what you do, then why are you doing this? So if you can't hear other people's opinion, then change it. Why are you doing this then?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still like at heart, I like getting into arguments with people. So, sometimes I will engage. But, sometimes I just don't see the point. And, there's people that, you're going to encounter regularly, and you kind of have to make nice a bit, I guess. And sometimes for me, I don't like talking about hot button issues because I do it all the time and I read about it all the time and I watch news about it all the time. So when I'm seeing my friends and my family, I just want a different surroundings, I want different surroundings, and I don't want to be engaged with that. And I want to talk about, how their jobs are, where they are in life, how my little brother is doing and all that stuff. So yeah, it's contextual,
It is. So I'm not following the news. And so, but I would say I don't really want to hear about the news, because most of the things when I'm working, then I listen to the news, so I know what is happening, but I can't change it. I just feel like I can do anything about it, so I don't have to worry so much about it. And instead I'm focusing now on so I'm participating in this club from my college, and I do want to advocate more about mental health, and that there are counselors in our university where you can get help. And so to push people, not pushing, but inspire people that instead of watching YouTube videos about mental health kind of stuff, they should talk to someone who's an expert in it and find the individual solution to it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
To go back to your original question, Dominic. So my family, same way as Cornelia's, where we're pretty much all on the same page when it comes to our political values, our beliefs, and COVID especially. With COVID, because like my mom works in the hospital, so she's seen the whole shebang of it, of how much people are affected by COVID and what people are going through. My father and my brother work in retail, so both of them actually both work in retail currently too. And so they know what's going on a daily basis as well, because they have all the regulations within the stores themselves. I'm not working currently, but I was. So I also have a little bit of experience of working during COVID. But when push comes to shove, not much when it comes to family, when it comes to that kind of stuff. As you mentioned earlier, drunk uncles. Yes, those definitely exist in my family. And they are very polar opposite on COVID regulations and politics when it comes to my family. We kind of just leave them be and go and swallow their own muck, but literally, because they drink too often. But at the end of the day, we just leave them be, let them live their own lives, and that's kind of how.
That's exactly where I'm at. Yeah.
Still want to get an argument with them. They're too far gone.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to take your losses, and you'll be happier, and everyone involved will be happier. If there is no chance of having a constructive conversation, then just don't.
That's true. If there's anything or not, then we are just going to wrap up here. So, Dominic, what goals or plans do you have, and what next step are you going to take?
First of all, get vaccinated as quickly as possible.
Raw.
Yeah. I know you guys have it. You guys have it good. What's your age, Matthew? How old are you?
I'm currently 23.
Yeah, you're younger than I am, and you got vaccinated. We have to wait a couple of months. So that's my main goal, is get vaccinated. And then I think I went into a couple of things before, like the appreciate little things thing. I want to keep that. I want to remain appreciating those little things and actually implement the lessons that I've learned in this time. I was talking about making an effort to see friends and doing like video calls and phone, like voice recordings and all that stuff. And I like that. I like hearing people's voices. I like calling people. We were in, like, people our age don't really call each other, we don't. A lot of people just don't. And it is a really good thing, like a connection on a personal level, I think. I like hearing people's voices. So I want to keep that. Hug people, like whenever I can, hug my family, hug my parents. And not really any major goals. Like I'm thinking maybe I will still go into that master's that I was talking about, American Studies. I'm not completely sure. It depends on mainly how COVID will be going and, what my life is like when I would have the opportunity to do so. But in general, I try not to look too far ahead in my life because, as I mentioned, life is going to throw all of these curveballs at you. And I can make plans and I can make goals, but a lot of shit's going to happen in the meantime. And I kind of like that. I want to be able to embrace that and be able to take different directions than the ones that I was expecting to take or wanting to take, because I think that can lead you to a lot of fun places. So I'm trying not to look too far ahead, but the small things are the things that I mentioned.
Would you say that you're currently doing the things you enjoy? Or is there something you would like to do more, except meeting your friends and those kind of things you can't do because of COVID?
I think I like where I'm at. Yeah, I think I'm happy. I think I'm probably happier than I've been in a long time, like especially these last couple of years. It's not directly related to COVID. I've been happy for a while, like a couple of years, definitely. What would I like to do more of? I think I should be cautious of not being alone too often. And that sounds really sad, I know. But like when you're working from home 40 hours a week, you got to make an effort to actually get out of the house. I don't see my colleagues. I rarely see my colleagues. There is, I think, a small risk, of getting stuck in a life where you're just going through the motions. And I don't want to let that happen to me. So I'm happy where I'm at, but I just want to be able to maintain that and continue that and keep reaching out to people and not, I guess, forgetting to do that and letting friendships like wither away because I'm failing to make an effort,
Yeah. So basically taking more actively control over your life.
Yeah.
Making choices, those kind of things.
Get back to the gym, that too.
Well, but you have your YouTube videos, so
I have my YouTube workout. That is true. That is also something that I've learned through COVID. But the gym is also like a social place. It's a place where you see people and talk to people and all that stuff. And I appreciate that too about it. The social aspect. Like, I think that's important. I've always found that important. Like in education too. One of the things I hated most about remote classes is not being able to see a lot of people, because I liked, going to uni, sitting in the general area and seeing my friends walk by, people that are going to random classes that are not mine, but still having a small talk and being social. It gave me something to take my mind off the things that I was currently doing. Like if I'm there, I'm probably studying, but then every once in a while you get a break and you are able to be a human. And I've always valued the social aspect of like regular things that we seem to value for different reasons, like education. You get educated, you want to find a job, sure. Go to the gym, you want to get a six pack or you want to lose weight and whatever. And of course, those are the big main reasons. But there's these side benefits that I don't try to lose sight of.
That's a good outlook. I dig that.
Thanks.
I agree with that too, because way I live my life as well.
yes, being social is always good. I can see it with doing this podcast.
And speaking of being social, would you like to promote anything that you're doing, especially a job, just in general, something fun? Where can people find you online, especially for your position as a sports journalist? What is that? Like, what is it called?
So it's a website. It's called voetbalzone.nl. Football is spelled in the Dutch way, so it's marketed towards the Dutch audience, But if you're interested in the sports or in my articles, then you can go to the website and you can find my profile on there, and it'll show you what articles I've written. You can also, Google my name and you'll find them too.
Nice.
And I am on Instagram. My Instagram handle is my first name and my last name, so Dominic Mostert written together. And personally, I don't really have anything like a project to promote. However, a couple of friends of mine are involved in a project that is designed to basically battle period poverty. There's a lot of people that do not have the funds to acquire period products. And what they're doing is they're teaming up with a bakery and they're selling brownies to people that want to buy them. And then the funds that they gather through that initiative will be donated to battling period poverty. So if you're interested in brownies and you're living in the Netherlands, because I think it's just a Dutch thing, then you can go to their Instagram. It's called Young Soar Optimist NL. It's an international NGO, but this is the Dutch version of it. And you can follow the link in the description and buy brownies and be a good person and help the world a bit. So a couple of my friends are involved in that, and I think it's a great thing. So just wanted to get that out there.
Lovely. That sounds really good. I like that. We'll link everything in the description so it's easier to access. Because I don't know anybody that wants to type out a whole URL. So
I know it's very 2005.
I think, Matthew, then it's time for your end statement.
Oh, good.
You got this.
Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider liking the video and subscribing. If you want to rise some more, join our Instagram account, and it'll be linked in the description below. If you want to see more of our warming content, check us out on our individual channels. And thank you again for listening. And remember, the sun never sets when we are together.